What's going on, everybody? This is SB with Just for Men. Today we're talking about the Phase 5 Revo. Revo stands for Revolving Sling Attachment Solution, and this is their single point sling solution. And we're going to be installing this once again on our M&P 15 Sport 2. So this will be mounting right back here on the castle nut. And I already made some comments about this rear sling point here, how this is worthless if you want to run a single point sling. So this is going to be added here. And the reason why I went with this solution is it's going to be silent. So it rotates about the castle nut area here. And the single point sling will connect directly to this attachment ring. Now, for those of you that have been following us, we had been working on basically a budget build with our AR. So pretty much everything on this gun was purchased from Amazon, but we had picked up the ambidextrous single point sling adapter, and this one is from Amazon, and I was going to try to install it, but it's a piece of shit. So this was about $19.99 off of Amazon. I don't recommend it. It was just the cheap way to go. I figured how much different could it be from the Magpul solution, and the problem that I see right off the bat is this thing is already like rusted. So it's already basically corroded, and it has this cheap, shitty ring on it, and I can't even get this ring to swing over to the other side like it should do. That's the whole point of an ambidextrous single point sling. So it's already rusted. I can't get this ring to the other side without forcing it. And here's the other thing that I noticed before I even installed it is, let me put this by the microphone. So this is just going to flop around loose on your gun when you don't have your sling attached, making all kinds of noise. And for that issue alone, that's the reason why I decided to go with the Phase 5 Revo. So the Phase 5 Revo will not have any jingle, and let's be honest, we're not going to be using our single point sling all the time, so that noise is going to be annoying as hell. So I want to say this Revo was a lot more expensive than the cheap Amazon one. The Amazon one was $19.95. This Revo from Phase 5 was about $65. But it looks good. It's got a nice coating on it. The color, everything matches the M&P 15. And the biggest deciding factor for me in terms of spending the extra money was there's no jingle, no rattle, no nothing when you don't have your single point sling attached to this. So this is through Phase 5, and we also have another product from Phase 5 that we're going to be showcasing here. That'll be in a different video, but yeah, so all that we're going to be using to do this mod, we're going to be using a Tapco castle nut wrench, and this was purchased off of Amazon. I believe this was about $9.95 or $9.99, and it comes with a bunch of different things on here. Now this here, it says it's for the muzzle device, this wrench fitting here. I didn't try it on the stock flash hider, but it will not fit on this specific aftermarket one, the Cobra Tac. This is for the castle nut here, and it actually does say on this end hole that it's for beer, so that's them kind of being funny. So all you do is you're going to put this in your castle nut, or on your castle nut, and twist it off like any other wrench, and that'll get your castle nut off. Now this spanner wrench, you might be able to tell, but it's olive green, so it's on the inside, or the entire surface of this wrench is painted olive green. So we noticed that the fit was so tight on our castle nut that we would have to kind of take up a knife and file off any painting on the inside surfaces where it touches the castle nut. That's how tight of a fit it is. So what we'll do is we'll cut showing a little bit of video on how to get this castle nut removed. For those of you that don't know or don't own a Model 15 Sport, this particular one, this was purchased in December of 2015. This one is staked in 2 locations. So one's here and one's here. So we're gonna see exactly how hard it is to remove this castle nut, but not expecting it to be too hard of a job. So stay tuned for more. All right, so here we are with the Revo from Phase 5. Let's open this thing up and take a look. Okay. All right, so here's the actual single point sling adapter, or as they call it, the revolving sling attachment solution. It's pretty sexy. Some of the older reviews I saw, they had patent pending on it. Now it actually has a patent number listed on there. And wow, you can't beat the quality though. Okay, and then it looks like it also comes with its own castle nut. That's what this is here. I'm not sure if I'm going to replace it with remove my stock one. Okay, so let's get started on the install. So what we're going to do is separate the upper and lower receivers. Okay. Set that off to the side here. Okay, now here's a couple things that we want to make note of. There's a spring back behind this base plate here, and there's also a spring-loaded detent here holding the buffer tube in place. So we're going to take our Tapco castle nut wrench, and as I already mentioned before, we had to file off the paint on these contact points here. So we're going to just loosen it up. There it is. Okay, now while I remove this, I'm going to put some pressure on this back plate because that spring is going to make it want to pop off. Okay. Okay. All right, so even with it staked, you could see how easy it was to remove this castle nut. I did break it before I started filming, but I didn't even have to put my rifle in a vise or anything like that. I had even bought this vice grip block that goes in the mag well, and then you tighten this into the vise. Didn't even need that son of a bitch. Okay. All right. Alright, so what we're going to do is take our multi-tool here and see if we can get this back plate to pop free. Okay, nothing. Trying not to scratch the shit out of it, even though it doesn't really matter and I don't care. Okay. Alright. Now, next up is the buffer tube. So here's the spring-loaded detent that I was talking about. Okay, let's destroy our table. Alright. There's our buffer spring. Okay. Okay, so just as a note, just taking a look at this here. Not sure if you can see this in the camera or not, but there's a groove down in here, and there's also a little bit of a notch in this base plate or back plate. So I had twisted the rear stock and buffer tube out of alignment with that thing. So I think that's why it's not coming loose. So I'm gonna tighten the buffer tube back up. Okay, there you go. And that explains why this back plate wouldn't release. Okay. All right, so I can't really, it's not really gonna show up on TV or on camera, but so there's a groove in the threaded portion of the buffer tube. That groove needs to be in line with the notch in this back plate. The notch kind of looks like that little notch here. That's what it looks like. So you need to release this back plate and spring in order to be able to unscrew your buffer tube. That's just the way it is. Okay, so what just shot out there, that was my buffer tube detent spring. So this guy here, and that was down in here. And I had already taken most of the pressure off of this spring when I removed the buffer tube spring. That's why I didn't shoot across the room. Okay. All right, so all we're gonna do now is just unscrew the buffer tube. There you go. We're going to remove our stock back plate. We're going to slide on our Revo from phase 5. And this Revo, it has the same notch that goes into the groove of this buffer tube, which it looks like I fucked up the threads. Awesome. And let's do this. So we'll Alright, here's my spring. Pretty fucked. We're gonna maybe put that towards the bottom in here. Okay. Alright, so what I'm doing this time is going around one extra rotation. So now the buffer tube is holding in that spring detent. Okay. Now I gotta get this little spring in place. Okay. Alright, there it is. Tighten this back down again. Okay. So the difference is I went one more rotation with my buffer tube, and now the buffer tube is holding down this detent so it can't release. So I missed that on first time reassembly. So what we'll do is tighten this down with our wrench. Okay, nice and tight. Check that our Revo is good. It's good. Let's check our takedown. That's good. All right, we're gonna put our spring in. Okay. Okay, and there is our buffer tube. Okay. All right. Once again, let's do reassembly. Okay, now we're ready to reassemble the upper to the lower. Okay. Okay, we get our takedown pins pushed in all the way. Now we'll do a function check. Okay. Okay, everybody, so there you have it. That's the install, or how to install a Revo by Phase 5. And I'm pretty happy with it. You can see you can swivel your gun either side really quickly to switch firing hands or whatever you want to do. And it's silent. So the single point swivel, or single point sling, I'm sorry, that I'm using is just a cheap Amazon one. And it works well. So yeah, there you have it. This is the Phase 5 Revo, and I like it. Like I said, it's really quiet, and it wasn't too hard to install, especially for a first timer. In case you couldn't tell, I struggled, but we figured it out. So, and yeah, it pops on really quick, and it's pretty quiet. I think you probably noticed it with the microphone that my rear stock, my collapsible rear stock, makes more noise than this thing. So overall, I'm happy with it. So there you go. Let me know if you have any comments or questions. And my main question to you guys is, what are you guys using for single point slings? Are you using something like the Magpul ASAP? Or are you using something cheaper like the Amazon one that I mentioned that was corroded and looked like a piece of shit? Are you happy with something like a Magpul ASAP that makes a little bit of jingle noise and all that? Or have you considered, you know, checking out this Phase 5? That, I mean, this thing is solid. It's stout. So there was no keys, no special little. I noticed like the Magpul and the Amazon one comes with two separate little keys that you have to put in there. One if it's a commercial, or one if it's mil spec. This didn't have any of that. So. And it came with an extra castle nut. So for this install, I didn't use the Phase 5 castle nut. I just put mine back on there. And the only problems I ran into were I didn't reinstall the buffer tube correctly. So I didn't screw it. I basically screwed the buffer tube in one less rotation than needed. And I didn't secure that spring detent for the buffer tube spring with the buffer tube. So by not securing it, that allowed it to pop free when I tried to cycle the gun. So we're good now. Everything's awesome. And yeah, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe. And yeah, see you next time.